The scream ripped through the lecture hall like a gunshot, shattering the drone of Professor Harlan's voice mid-sentence about Keynesian economics. I jolted upright in my seat, my notebook sliding off my lap, heart slamming against my ribs as the acrid stench of smoke clawed its way into my lungs. Bodies surged toward the exits in a blind stampede, but I froze, because there, slumped against the podium, was the professor himself, clutching his chest, his face twisted in a silent agony that mirrored the betrayal I'd felt just hours before from the one person I thought I could trust. That person was Jake, my roommate of 2 years, the guy who'd promised to have my back when I finally worked up the nerve to tell him about Ezekiel. We'd been roommates at Northwestern, crammed into a shoebox apartment off campus in Evanston, the kind of place where Lake Michigan's chill seeped through the walls even in summer. Jake was the all-American type. Blonde, broad-shouldered, captain of the intramural soccer team, the one who blasted Springsteen on vinyl and cracked dad jokes over lukewarm beers. He was straight as an arrow, or so I thought, and I'd always figured that made him safe. My confidant, my straight ally in a world that still felt like it was sizing me up for not fitting the mold. I'd met Ezekiel in Intro to Macroeconomics last fall. He sat 2 rows ahead, always in that faded gray hoodie that hugged his shoulders just right. His dark skin glowing under the fluorescent lights like he carried the sun from back home in Atlanta. Zeke, nobody called him Ezekiel except the prof, was quiet but not the brooding kind. He'd flash this half-smile when he caught me staring, like he knew exactly what was running through my head during those long, dull lectures. We'd started talking after class one day about how the textbook glossed over the racial wealth gap, and before I knew it, we were grabbing coffee at that hole-in-the-wall spot by the lake, debating everything from reparations to the Cubs' curse season. It was easy with him. Too easy. Zeke had this way of leaning in, his brown eyes locking onto yours like you were the only equation in the room worth solving. He was studying engineering, but he minored in philosophy. Said it kept him grounded in the mess of it all. We texted nonstop. Memes about bad profs, voice notes about our shitty part-time gigs, mind-slinging lattes at a campus cafe, his tutoring high school kids online. One night, after a brutal econ midterm, we ended up at his dorm, splitting a pizza and watching Moonlight for the 3rd time. I don't know who moved first. Maybe it was the way his laugh vibrated against my side when Chiron finally kissed Kevin. But our hands brushed, and then we were kissing, slow and tentative, like we'd both been waiting for the world to catch up. That was 3 weeks ago. We'd kept it quiet, stealing moments in empty study rooms or late-night walks along the shore, where the waves whispered secrets the wind couldn't hear. Zeke called it our little rebellion, his voice low and warm against my ear. I believed him. God, I did. He made me feel seen. Not just as the gay kid from the suburbs who'd come out in high school and lost half his friends, but as Miles, the guy who dreamed of Wall Street but feared he'd never measure up. But Jake had been sniffing around, asking too many questions. Who's this Zeke dude? You two seem tight. I brushed it off at first, but last night, after Zeke left our apartment following a group hang that turned into just us two on the fire escape, Jake cornered me in the kitchen. His face was flushed, not from the cheap whiskey we'd shared, but from something darker. Dude, you're playing with fire. That guy's got baggage. Heard from some friends in engineering he's got a rep for bouncing when things get real. It hit like a sucker punch. Jake, who'd hugged me after my first Pride parade, who'd vouched for me when our RA side-eyed my Grindr notifications. I'm just looking out for you, man. Trust me. Trust him? The words echoed in my head now as the lecture hall devolved into hell. It started innocently enough. A faint hiss from the HVAC vents during Harlan's rant on fiscal policy, like the building was exhaling too hard. Then the coughs rippled through the rows. First one girl in the back, then a guy near the door. By the time the sprinklers kicked in, it wasn't water raining down. It was chaos. Someone yelled, "Gas!" and the room exploded. Chairs toppled. Laptops crashed to the floor, and the air thickened with a chemical tang that burned my throat. Carbon monoxide? Chlorine from the pool downstairs leaking up? I didn't know. Chem wasn't my major, but my vision blurred at the edges, a vice squeezing my chest. I stumbled to my feet, coughing into my sleeve, scanning for Zeke. There, 3 seats over, his hoodie sleeve extended like a beacon. Our eyes met through the haze, and for a split second, the world narrowed to just us. His nod sharp, urgent, mouthing, "Stay low." I dropped to a crouch, heart pounding not just from the panic but from the raw fear of losing him before we'd even figured out what we were. Jake? Nowhere in sight. He'd been sitting behind me, but now the row was empty, his backpack abandoned like yesterday's trash. The betrayal sank in like ice water, while everyone else clawed for the doors, screaming, shoving, trampling backpacks. Jake had bolted. No glance back. No Miles, come on. Just gone. The guy who'd sworn brotherhood had left me choking in a poison cloud. All because, what? Jealousy? Some twisted protectiveness that curdled into abandonment? Tears stung my eyes, mixing with the smoke, as I crawled toward Zeke. My lungs screamed, each breath shallower than the last, spots dancing in my vision like fireflies in hell. Zeke reached me first, his hand clamping my wrist like a lifeline. Miles, on your belly, crawl. His voice cut through the din, steady where mine would have cracked. Up close, his face was a mask of focus, but I saw the flicker of terror in his eyes. For me, not himself. We inched toward the side exit, the one less mobbed, but the floor tilted under me, my arms turning to jelly. A woman ahead collapsed, her scream gurgling into silence, and the crowd parted around her like she was debris. Zeke hauled me past, his body shielding mine, whispering, "We're getting out. You hear me? Together." That's when it hit, full force, the gas or the grief or both. My chest seized, a white-hot knife twisting between my ribs, and I crumpled, the cold linoleum slapping my cheek. Voices blurred into a roar. Sirens wailing outside, distant shouts of, "Fire department's here." But it was Zeke's face that sharpened in the fog, hovering above me, his hands already moving. No, stay with me," he said, voice breaking for the first time. He tilted my head back, pinched my nose, and breathed into my mouth. Once, twice. His lips warm and desperate against the chill creeping through me. He knew what to do. Of course he did. Zeke had told me once, over that pizza, about his summer after high school. Volunteering with the fire department back in Atlanta, training in hazmat response after a chemical plant scare near his neighborhood. "Lost my uncle to bad air in a warehouse fire," he'd said, eyes distant. "Taught me you don't wait for heroes. You become one." Now, here he was, my hero, pumping my chest with precise, unrelenting force, counting under his breath. 1, 2, 3. The room spun, faces melting into shadows, but his rhythm anchored me, each compression a promise, each breath a confession. Betrayal burned hotter than the gas. Jake's words replayed, "He's got baggage." Was that it? Zeke's past, his quiet scars from growing up black and queer in the South, where love came with asterisks. Or was Jake projecting his own shit? The way he'd tense when I brought guys home, the offhand jokes about keeping it straight, I trusted him with my vulnerability, and he'd weaponized it, fleeing while Zeke fought. The injustice clawed at me, even as darkness tugged. How many times do we build walls around our hearts, only for the people inside to kick them down from the wrong side? A cough racked my body, mine, ragged and alive, and Zeke's hands stilled, his face splitting into a grin through the grime. "There you are. Breathe, baby. Just breathe." Sirens blared closer, boots thundering in the hall, and paramedics burst through, masks down, barking orders. They swarmed us, oxygen mask clamped over my face, Zeke reciting my symptoms like a pro. Suspected chlorine exposure. Shallow breaths, cyanosis starting, responsive now. They loaded me onto a stretcher, but he wouldn't let go of my hand, jogging alongside as they wheeled me out into the crisp November air, where news vans clustered like vultures and students huddled in shock under the sodium lamps. The hospital was a blur. For drips, monitors beeping like accusatory heartbeats, doctors murmuring about mild pulmonary edema, and lucky to be caught early. Zeke stayed, perched on the plastic chair, his hoodie reeking of smoke but his presence a bomb. When the nurses cleared out, he leaned in, thumb tracing my knuckles. "Scared the hell out of me, Miles. Thought I was gonna lose you before I could say it proper." "Say what?" My voice was a croak, but the words hung there electric. "That this us isn't some rebellion. It's real, and I ain't bouncing. Not ever." His eyes, those deep brown pools, held mine, and I saw it all. The boy who'd hidden his first crush from his preacher dad, the man who'd crossed states to chase dreams without apology. No baggage, just strength, forged in fires I hadn't earned but was damn grateful to share. I squeezed his hand, the betrayal with Jake fading to a dull ache. I'd confront him later, demand answers, maybe cut ties, because trust, once shattered, doesn't glue back neat. But here, in this sterile room with the lake wind rattling the window, it didn't matter. We'd survived a lecture-turned apocalypse, and in the wreckage we'd found something unbreakable. Word got out fast. Campus lockdown, headlines screaming Northwestern hazmat scare, 47 hospitalized, 1 faculty critical. Jake texted at dawn, "Dude, saw the news. You okay?" Was total chaos. Couldn't find you. Lies slick as the gas. I blocked him, deleted the thread, let the anger simmer into resolve. Forgiveness? Maybe someday if he owned it. But humanity's messy like that. Full of cowards who run and quiet kings who stay. Zeke and I discharged together 2 days later, arms linked as we stepped into the gray Chicago sunlight. The lake stretched endless, waves crashing like applause. "Coffee?" he asked, that half-smile back, softer now. "Only if you promise no more near-death econ classes." He laughed, pulling me close. "Deal. But if we make it through this, we can make it through anything." And we did. Turns out, love's not about grand gestures or fairy tale endings. It's the hands that press on when the air turns toxic, the voices that count the beats to pull you back. In the heart of America, where dreams clash and betrayals sting, Zeke taught me that. We walked on, 2 guys against the wind, building a story worth every breathless moment.